Manx Radio's Update with Lewis Foster.
Fastamai. Good evening, it's 5 o'clock on Thursday the 24th of October. Welcome along to Update, your half-hour look at the latest news on and from the Isle of Man. Coming up, the Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture wants to know if you'll support a ban on disposable vapes. We take a drive through the Ballasalla bypass and look at what's in store for the route over the next year and a half. We have the latest from the Peel sewage appeal, and the new steam packet schedule has been published. We'll hear about that shortly. As ever, we'll keep you posted on anything to watch out for travel-wise, and your thoughts always welcome to on any of tonight's stories. Text 166 177 or email studio@manxradio.com. First of all, Siobhan Fletcher has the headlines for us. Fastamai, Siobhan.
Fastamai. The Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture says banning disposable vapes would help protect the environment. It wants people to give their views on its plans in a public consultation, which is live until the 11th of November. 14 management posts have been created in Manx Care since the board's formation in 2021, costing more than £800,000 per year. The figures have been published in response to a Tynwald question from Oncan MHK Julie Edge. The Isle of Man Steam Packet Company has released its sailing schedule up to May 2026. It reveals extra services have been added to Belfast from next year, and year-round sailings to Liverpool for the Manxmen also feature. Fenoddery Distillery will auction off its first ever limited edition Refuge Manx rum bottle tomorrow. All the proceeds will be donated to the RNLI, which is celebrating its 200th anniversary this year. Further afield, the UK Chancellor has confirmed she will rewrite the government's financial rules to allow her to borrow more money. The idea is to invest more in public projects. Lucy Letby's been told she cannot challenge her conviction for the attempted murder of a baby girl. She was found guilty in July of trying to kill a newborn known as Child K. And the United Nations says the chance of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius is almost impossible. Its annual report says that last year emissions of greenhouse gases were the highest on record. They're your headlines. I'll be back with your news at 6.
Guramayed, thank you, Siobhan. Now, the weather brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing, remaining largely dry into this evening and at first tonight, then with occasional outbreaks of rain arriving by the end of the night. Mainly moderate to fresh southeasterly winds and minimum temperatures of 10 or 11 degrees. Cloudy with outbreaks of rain at first, soon turning patchy tomorrow and easing off at times. Then a further spell of rain moves through in the evening before clearing early in the night. Moderate to fresh east or southeast winds will veer south and ease later in the day. Best temperature tomorrow of 15 degrees. Then sunny spells and isolated showers for much of Saturday. A spell of light rain in the evening for a time. Light to moderate southwest winds will freshen in the afternoon with a top temperature of 14 degrees. Sunset tonight 1 minute before 6 and sunrise at 8:06 tomorrow.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
TE Carbon provide new memorial stones, grave renovations, new inscriptions and fire hearths. Visit us at Hope Street, Castletown or at Broadway, Douglas or call 844 440. TE Carbon, here when you need us.
Most builders start with a hammer and saw. Manx Construction start with ideas and imagination. For new build, extension or home office, Manx Construction offer full service from planning to completion. Call Tony on 452 688.
We all need peace of mind. That's where Peace of Mind Manx Will Writing Services can help you. From just £149 plus VAT. Call 671 001 or go to peaceofmind.co.im.
At Bond Fabrics, we're not just a fabric shop. As well as curtains and upholstery and dress and costume fabrics, we've knitting and crocheting wools, made-to-measure curtain and blind service, plus poles and tracks. Visit Strand Street, Douglas, call 611856 or see bondfabrics.im.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
And the time now approaching 5:05. Should disposable vapes be banned on the Isle of Man? That's the question the Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture is asking in its latest consultation. The UK government has already announced a ban on them, due to come into force next year. DEFA Minister Claire Barber has been telling Amy Griffiths why she wants to introduce the measure too.
Certainly, I've seen plenty that are just thrown away, dumped, dropped at the side of the road, and it just feels something where there is an alternative that's a reusable vape. But we're going out with the consultation that's live until the 11th of November, specifically asking people their views on that. So we've got the information from the first consultation, but we're just expanding that a bit more on this specific topic.
And around 5 million disposable vapes are thrown away each week in the UK. Is there any idea of the kind of numbers that we're seeing here?
So I don't have specific numbers, and one of the things with that is that despite the fact they have the lithium-ion batteries, actually we expect the majority are just getting thrown into domestic waste, which is another element, I suppose, to this, is the challenges with actual safe disposal of the vaping units. And the reality is for most people it is a case of just discard the used product.
And you mentioned the safety element there, because the batteries are said to be susceptible to damage and they can ignite if they are, which can cause fire hazard for bin lorries and also at the Energy for Waste plant. Have there been any incidents like that to date?
So I'm not aware there have been any incidents, and as I say, the angle that we're coming at this from is the single-use plastic angle, but there is, as I said, it's right to acknowledge that there is that element as well, where certainly in the UK they have seen some significant fires that have really damaged their equipment in terms of waste handling, and certainly I think something we would like to avoid, not just with single-use vapes, I would say actually with a number of different products that have lithium-ion batteries that potentially could end up in domestic waste streams. From my perspective, with a consultation, the more responses we get, the better, because I think you get richer data. And when we're making a change like this, we know it does have an impact, not just on the businesses, but also on individuals. You know, we want to hear from people who use single-use vapes, especially people who maybe are specifically choosing a single-use vape over a reusable vaping product, to understand why that is, to try and understand what barriers might exist so that we can explore those and make sure that we're cognizant of those when we're making our final decisions.
DEFA Minister Claire Barber there. So, disposable vapes, for or against? Let us know on WhatsApp 166 177. Now, today was the final day of the planning appeal hearing for the Peel sewage treatment works. Inspector Jennifer Weiss heard evidence for conditions which could be imposed if the application is approved, and the closing arguments from parties. Our local democracy reporter Emma Draper has been covering the hearing for us. Emma, what kind of conditions could be placed on the development?
So the conditions cover a number of different parts of the works. Condition 8 for a fungi survey and management regime was adapted because the survey had been carried out already, but the report was being awaited. David Jones, the appellant, suggested an extra condition should be a new, longer outfall pipe installed in Peel Bay. He claimed the current one is not up to modern standards, but the MUA's legal representative, James Burton, said it shouldn't be considered as it's outside the application site and will be dealt with by DEFA's licensing committee.
And as we said before, today is the final day, so how did it all wrap up?
Well, the inspector heard closing statements from the parties involved. She first heard from Peel Commissioners, the clerk Derek Sewell and Commissioner Alan Jones. They both reiterated how important it was for the people of Peel to have a sewage treatment works and asked her to dismiss the appeal and approve the application. Then she heard from Mr Burton on behalf of Manx Utilities. They maintained that the Glen Faber Road site is their preferred site and should be the one that is approved by her. He added the proposals will bring about a manifest betterment to the quality of the sea around Peel Bay. Finally, David Jones and his witnesses Peter Willers and Chris Robertshaw made their final say. Mr Robertshaw said the fault for the need for a regional sewage plant in Peel lies with Mary Veg and it being undersized. He also said the best he can say about the application is that it is something. Mr Willers said that the overriding national need could have been met if the government had rejected the inspector's report into Glen Faber House. He also reiterated his previous comments that public consultation is needed in an environmental impact assessment. Mr Jones ended his case by saying the proposed site brings a threat to Peel residents and businesses in the nearby food park would be affected by the works if it was approved. He also claimed the application goes against the island's strategic plan.
Thank you, Emma. Now, 3 days. The inspector has heard all this evidence, so what happens next?
So she'll collate the evidence she's heard over the last 3 days, as well as written submissions, and she'll form a report. The inspector said this would be done as efficiently as possible, and once complete, will go to the DEFA Minister Claire Barber, and it will be up to her to make the final decision.
And we'll look out for that. Local democracy reporter Emma Draper speaking there. Gurmayad, Emma. Now, the time approaching 5:10. A signature and a substance containing carcinogens are currently delaying completion of a route designed to ease the volume of traffic going through Ballasalla. The good news, we do have a possible date for completion of the Ballasalla bypass. The not so good news, it's not for another year and a half. Here's John Moss.
Now, I am no expert, but 2/3 of the bypass, the bit that has been built, does present a road surface that many who live on potholed highways would relish. I come off the roundabout and am now going down the bypass. It goes to a steady bend to the right. There's quite a bit of it done, looking at all the homes on the right-hand side as I drive down the hill. Fields, obviously, to the left. It is a big estate, this. Now, where are we coming up to now? Yes, now, here we are. This is the end of the work that's been done. Work has still to be done over there in front of me. There's some raised ironwork here. If I just get over carefully. And then turn around and head back. But this is as far as it goes. But looking over there is the main road through Ballasalla, and it's about 200 yards away, so that's about that much work still to do. There's about 200 yards where it's still a building site. That's the missing link through to Balthain. What is holding things up? One thing is the presence of coal tar, which is used in creosote and bitumen and contains carcinogens, cancer-causing. So it has to be treated warily. But by who? That appears to be one of the problems facing Infrastructure Minister Tim Crookall.
Budget approval for the construction of the roundabout and purchase of the properties at Railway Terrace was approved, however, due to the presence of coal tar in the existing roundabout, further funding is required to appoint a specialist advisor to draft the technical specifications for treatment of coal tar so that this can be treated and encapsulated in the new construction. The department is not in a position at this time to provide a definitive date, but is targeting completion by April 2026. If you go down the bypass, it's not finished yet. There is a top coat to go on it. It's not been signed off, so it's not completed. As I said 2 weeks ago and was challenged on that, it's not complete because it's not signed off. And there is a third coat to go on that. And that will happen at the same time as we do our bit to make it all one top coat, if you like, but it's not complete. The land agreements for the final parcel of land to be transferred from Maloo Commissioners to the department are still in progress.
That's not all. Another problem with the present Balthain roundabout is flooding.
I can advise that the 6 reported incidents of flooding at the Balthain roundabout since January 2019 were either due to standing water or the gullies being overwhelmed. All incidents were reported have occurred during periods of intense rainfall. As and when flooding occurs, flood warning boards have been deployed by our parish warden teams, who are also proactive in monitoring the area during heavy rainfall events. If required, a sweeper or jetty is dispatched to remove excess flood water, to try and maintain the safe passage for vehicles and pedestrians in that area.
When work gets underway on the new version, that'll have to be dealt with.
John Moss with the latest on the Ballasalla bypass. Now, the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company has today released its sailing schedule up to May 2026. Siobhan Fletcher is back with this report.
It reveals extra services have been added to Belfast from next year, and year-round sailings to Liverpool for the Manxmen also feature. The Steam Packet says the schedule release marks a significant change in policy for the company and will allow customers to secure their preferred sailings up to 18 months in advance of their travel plans. In recent years, schedules were released for a 12-month period. Managing Director Brian Thompson says the company is committed to improving its services, getting back to the high levels of reliability and punctuality they've been known for, and enhancing the customer experience to make sure they provide the best service they can. The initiatives around pricing and scheduling have been informed by the recent on-island survey, which attracted over 3,000 responses from residents. The results of that survey found that frequency in service was a key area for improvement, with current island residents desiring year-round sailings to Liverpool and wanting to see more sailings to Northern Ireland.
Gromyed, thank you, Siobhan. In other business news today, colleagues at Utmost International Isle of Man have raised over £3,000 in support of Manx charity Craig's Heartstrong Foundation. The team took part in the parish walk and hosted bake sales to raise funds for the worthy cause. The charity holds heart screenings for men and women between the ages of 14 and 35 in the Isle of Man. Go along if you can. Paul Healy, chairman of Craig's Heartstrong Foundation, says they are most grateful to Utmost for this amazing donation. Now, the latest stock market report from Ramsey Crookall. UK and European stocks were higher as investors reviewed another batch of earnings reports and shook off US market declines. The US dollar stalled near a 3-month high against other major currencies, underpinned by expectations for a slower pace of interest rate cuts by the Federal Reserve. Oil prices rose as the Middle East conflict and reports of North Korean troops ready to help Russia in Ukraine helped traders on edge ahead of the US presidential election. And gold prices rose to trade near record highs as safe haven demand from persistent geopolitical concerns bolstered prices. Markets at the close, the FTSE 100 up 0.13% to 8,269, and the DAX up 0.39% to 19,453. A short time ago, the Dow Jones down 0.92% to 42,531. The S&P 500 down 0.76% to 5,806. And the Nasdaq down 1.12% to 18,364. British pound sterling trading at $1.296 and 1.199 euros. Gold up 0.58% to $2,730, and Brent down 0.96% to $74.11.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
2:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
Oh.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Let's head to the roads.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Well, first of all, in Douglas, Victoria Road is one way between Stanley Place and Broadway in a southerly direction, that's towards Broadway, for electrical installation works. Also in Douglas, temporary lights on Governor's Road, 24 hours a day to replace the street lighting. In Braddon, parts of Braddon Road is one way from the Balla-Fletcher roundabout to the hospital roundabout in that direction for resurfacing work, and Strang Road is also one way from the Strang roundabout towards Union Mills. And in Peel, until the 1st of November, temporary lights on Douglas Road near QE2 School, 24 hours a day for water main replacement. Over at the airport, no problems really to report. The London City and Manchester flights all due out in the next hour. The 6 o'clock Liverpool flight, Logan Air, slightly delayed at the moment, only 15 minutes, so hopefully it should be fine. Over on the sailings, no problems either. Manannan arriving in Liverpool in the next 15 minutes or so, returning to Douglas at 7:15, expected back around 10 o'clock tonight. And the Manxman's been sailing to Heysham this afternoon. She's due to arrive there just after 6 o'clock.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at Quayside. You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
And the time now 18 minutes past 5. The person overseeing the Isle of Man's Commonwealth Games team admits there's been mixed initial reactions to which 10 sports will form the 2026 event in Glasgow. Road cycling, triathlon and badminton are among the disciplines to be left out. Isle of Man team chef de mission is Erica Bellhouse.
I think we've heard little bits of rumours and we are, as you know, we're sort of strong cycling nation. So initial shock that there's not going to be any road cycling, and that hand in hand with that is sort of like the triathlon and potentially the marathon. So that was the sort of initial thoughts. But then we turn to the fact that I'm, looking through, obviously 10 sports have been announced. We've probably got potentially 9 of those, I suspect, could. Netball's the slightly questionable one. It usually is done through a ranking system, but that remains to be seen how that will be dealt with. But, we've got 9 sports there where we have strong contenders for places.
How difficult a situation is that going to be for those involved in sports that were hoping to go, but it looks like won't be able to?
Well, I spoke to you a couple of weeks ago, Rob, and it's not easy at all, because traditionally we have always had very particularly strong cycling teams, and I'm sure there are people there that are going to be disappointed. Unfortunately, as I said, it's so out of our control, and I think there will be quite a few people taking a bit of time to get their heads around it, if I'm honest.
And for those who could be in contention with the sports that are there, what next for the sports involved?
So I think really we now know the sports. Obviously now my brain immediately turns to what's the impact going to be on the team size, because obviously we had 34 athletes at the last games. How will that look? And obviously at the moment we have no clue. So my message to the athletes is to carry on doing what they have been doing. Obviously we need to get round and speak with the sports that are perhaps not included, just to make sure that people are being managed properly. But in terms of the 10 sports that are included, my message is to carry on training. We will be crunching numbers and working out logistics.
Rob Pritchard speaking to Isle of Man team chef de mission Erica Bellhouse about the 2026 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. Now, the chairman of Castletown Commissioners says that she feels she's the target of a social media witch hunt. It's over moves to ban cars from the town square year-round. After a unanimous vote a year ago, the commissioners applied to the Department of Infrastructure, but they are still awaiting a response. Chair Beth Cannon says using parks further away from the square could help trade.
I've lived in Castletown, I want the best for it. It encourages active travel, people walking to the shops, and you're more likely to visit more shops if you're not parked outside one of them. If you just park to pop into a shop, that's the only one you're going to go to. But if you have to walk to the shops, you're more likely to wander around the town.
But this area here with its seats, etc., during the winter, it's going to be a bit bleak, isn't it?
It probably will be, but if we can have it all year round, there are things we can do with it. We are hoping to engage an urban designer to help us design something that would do all year round.
What sort of thing? Do you know yet?
Permanent furniture, but at the moment that's all because we haven't engaged her yet.
That's in the air at the moment.
Yeah.
Now this discussion, if I can put it that way, on social media, does this make you feel upset enough to
I think it does
throwing
a bit,
in the
yeah.
towel?
Not really, because I think then I would be given into bullying. If I threw in the towel now, I think they'd think, oh well, we've got what we want because we've shouted loud enough.
Now, you don't know if DOI are going to give permission. They're still waiting to see.
Yeah.
But if they say, yay, go ahead, will you go ahead?
Yes.
Do you think it's important?
I do think it's important.
What
Yes.
about the opposition?
I think they have a valid point too, and everyone is entitled to their opinions. But the targeting for the markets that happened over the weekend, I think is ridiculous.
That's the chair of Castletown Commissioners, Beth Cannon, speaking there. You're listening to Update, the time now 22 minutes past 5. Manx residents are being asked to help measure the popularity of Manx traditions this Hop-Tu-Naa. Culture Vannin is conducting the first survey of its type to find out more about those going out to sing across the island this year. The hope is for people to keep track of a few simple things about those calling at their door on the 31st of October. James Franklin is Culture Vannin's online and educational resources officer.
Folklore and folklore practices are always changing all over the world. This is what living traditions are. The only practices and the only folklore which doesn't change is stuff which has died and is no longer practiced. And so, of course, Hop-Tu-Naa is changing and developing, but it's on us as a nation to record it now so that people are able to understand this more and go into the future. I think all of us feel like we know Hop-Tu-Naa in our own where we are, but of course it's different all over the Isle of Man and it's always changing. And if we don't have a quantifiable conversation about what it is in the different areas, we won't actually understand what goes on elsewhere in the Isle of Man. And I think this is a bit like at Christmas, when everyone thinks they do Christmas the same, but then you go and visit a friend or your partner at Christmas, and they do it so weirdly every time. And it's very like Hop-Tu-Naa, I think. Wherever we are in the Isle of Man, people will be doing it different, and they will have done it differently and they will do it differently in the future, and it's just about recording it. But everything we do at Hop-Tu-Naa is an expression of who we are as Manx people, and if we can add it all up, we'll get a better understanding of how we understand the traditions as a nation, and also how these are represented within the Isle of Man, and it might paint a very interesting picture which people outside might be very surprised at.
That's James Franklin from Culture Vannin there. Can you believe it? Hop-Tu-Naa a week today. Manx Radio's sports editor Rob Pritchard joins us now in the studio. You dressing up next week?
No, but do you know what? Listening to that clip, I did think in my head, when is the last time I went trick-or-treating? And the only time I can sort of picture and remember it is in the very late 90s. That's how long ago it was.
Yeah, he's lying. It was last year. Anyway, what's the latest sporting news, Rob?
Well, okay, starting us off tonight, a pair of Isle of Man athletes are set to take on the 2024 Ironman World Championships this weekend. Nigel Quay and Dr. Richard Callow will face the gruelling test on Kona, Hawaii on Saturday the 26th of October. Described by organisers as the ultimate test of body, mind and spirit, the island competitors will be part of more than 2,400 male athletes taking on a 140.6 mile course. Starting with a 2.4 mile swim, competitors will then face a 112 mile bike ride before concluding the challenge with a 26.2 mile run. There are 138 athletes from the United Kingdom taking part, whilst 85 countries, regions and territories will be represented in total. Elsewhere, Special Olympics Isle of Man returns to national competition this weekend with the badminton squad in action this time around. The Manx team is sending 3 athletes, Ethan Butler, Lawrence Dyer and David Hudson Jr., to the National Disability Badminton Games at University of Derby Sports Centre this Saturday and Sunday. While hosted by Derbyshire All-Stars, Special Olympics Isle of Man says the competition will be a fantastic opportunity for our athletes to pit themselves against some of the UK's very best. Day 1 will see the men's and women's singles tournaments take place, with the second and final day featuring the men's and women's doubles events. It'll be the second time this month Special Olympics Isle of Man has been in off-island competition after the football squad contested the Special Champions League in Belgium. And elsewhere, prolific Isle of Man archery competitor Leslie State has retained one of her titles during what is expected to be her final outing of the current season. She, along with Roger Slate, contested the English Field Archery Association at Ashby de la Zouch in Leicestershire on the 19th to the 20th of October. In an event including more than 130 archers vying for national bow class titles, Leslie managed to retain the women's traditional recurve title with a score of 670. Elsewhere, Roger went on to finish 8th in the men's traditional recurve class with a total of 566. Well, among her achievements throughout 2024, Leslie set 2 new national records. In March, she set a new standard in the veteran ladies traditional recurve class for the Forester round, also at Ashby de la Zouch. And then in early June, she set a new English veteran record in the unmarked precision 3D round at the EFAA English Bow Hunter Championships in Sutton and Ashfield.
Manx Radio's sports editor there, Rob Pritchard, Guramiad. That's it from Update for this evening. Do remember you can contact us in the Manx Radio newsroom anytime by email, newsroom@manxradio.com. Coming up next, Bob Carswell with Shaq Lair, and after 6, Chris Kinley's back with Greatest Hits. I'll be back with Update at the same time tomorrow.